You got to be kidding. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this, my third State of the City address. This year I'll report, as required by the Charter, report to all citizens concerning the current state of our city with respect to the delivery of basic services, the state of our finances, and report to you on the tremendous progress we have made in turning our city in the right direction. I will also show you where we are achieving my vision for the future of this great city that I laid out when I took office 2 years ago. But first, I would like to recognize members of my Common Council. First, my Deputy Mayor, Drew Claxton, who's unable to be here tonight. I know she's watching, and we all wish you Godspeed in your struggle to regain your health. I would ask all citizens of Peekskill to keep Drew Claxton in their hearts and prayers during this time that she's struggling. Kathy Talbot also called in sick tonight. Councilwoman McKenzie. Vinny Vessey's on his way. He's running late from Jersey. And Joe Torres. Without their help and hard work, many of the accomplishments I will discuss tonight would not have been made possible. I would like to give special recognition and a welcome to Councilman Andre Rainey to the Common Council. Councilman Rainey, the progress I will outline here tonight was made possible only by a council working together. Only together will we be in a position to continue this progress, and I look forward to working with you. I would also like to take this opportunity to recognize our city employees and acknowledge the great job they continue to do under sometimes difficult circumstances. First, our great Chief of Police and Peekskill native, Eric Johansson. He has made Peekskill... Eric has made Peekskill a proactive police department rather than a reactive one. He has gained the confidence of all facets of our diverse community as an honest broker who treats people the way he wants to be treated. Eric, on behalf of the entire city, I want to thank you and your department for their great service. Our Department of City Services, guided by our city engineer and director of city services, Brent Van Zant. Brent continues to be overly responsive to even the most mundane of citizen requests, leaving our complaint box virtually empty. More importantly, he stands silent in the face of what I have seen to be unfair and untruthful public attacks on his hiring practices. Brent, I want to thank you and your building inspectors and all the men and women in your department for great service. To our great city clerk, Pam Beach. Pam, I want to thank you and your entire staff for all you do, and I want to assure you that with some recent good financial news and new development projects I will talk about tonight, help is on the way. Perhaps our busiest department with all the new and exciting development projects we have is the planning department under the direction of Gene Friedman. Gene has, within 1 year, taken control of this department that for too long has been without new and exciting development projects. She has responded by making these sometimes complex projects explainable to the various boards and commissions that must grant approvals. She has been able to get serious and complex approvals without undue delay. Jean, I want to thank you and your fantastic staff for putting up with my unrealistic expectations for approval timetables. Please keep up the outstanding work that you're doing. Our fire chief here, Vinny Malaspina. I want to welcome Vinny Malaspina as the new chief of our fire department. I'm so happy that he's leading. He's not here because he knew I was going to say this. But I want to thank Vinny for leading the department in this defensive position, because when we played football for the Red Devils at Peekskill High School, quite frankly, he was horrible on offense. Chief Malaspina, I'm glad he's not here. Chief Malaspina, along with his assistant chiefs, John Rose and Mike Sniffen, the deputy chiefs, the volunteers, and our professional staff are doing a tremendous job protecting lives and property in the city. Our fire department provides a 24/7 protection plan covering our city that is unmatched by any city of our size and population. Our citizens owe the entire fire department a debt that can never be repaid. A simple thank you is never enough for those that risk their own lives to protect ours. On behalf of a grateful city, we thank all the members of the Peekskill Fire Department. Our city attorney, Melissa Ferraro, has taken over control of the legal department from a highly specialized and well-regarded law firm of Harris Beach. And quite frankly, no one has noticed the difference. Her opinions and advice have been excellent and supported by real, tangible results. As a practicing attorney myself for 35 years and a former corporation counsel, I have been truly impressed at your professional work, and you have earned my genuine respect in that difficult position. On behalf of the entire city, Melissa, I want to thank you and your staff for the great job you're doing. Our finance department, under the direction of our controller, Ann Scaglione, continues to innovate that department and constantly monitors every dollar that comes in and goes out of the city. My insistence on cutting budgets I did not support, in effect to make lemonade from the lemons, has been supported by her, and together with the city manager, our cuts over the past 2 years and steadfast insistence on restoring fiscal integrity to the city with the goal of achieving a balanced operating budget has finally been achieved. And on behalf of the entire city, I want to thank you and your entire department for doing a fantastic job. Our recreation department, headed by Joyce Cuccia, has done a fantastic job maintaining a level of services to our citizens, especially our youth, in the face of continued budgetary restraints. Joyce, thank you and your staff for all that you do. Fran Brunel is in charge of our Section 8 program and does fine work running the senior center. When a department runs year after year without problems, it's a tribute to people like Fran Brunel, Ed Callahan, and his entire staff. And I know from personal experience that the food isn't too bad either. Fran, thank you and your staff for all that you do for the city. Michelle Jordan is our city assessor, and she is doing excellent work under very difficult circumstances. Michelle has negotiated fair and reasonable settlements on numerous tax certiorari cases, in every instance except one that unfortunately will go to trial. Everyone knows my aversion to litigation and hiring outside counsels, but this case represented an exception that could not be avoided, but one that I predict, here and now, will be resolved at or near the numbers that Michelle offered in pretrial proceedings. Ms. Jordan, thank you for you and your dedicated staff for all your efforts on behalf of the city. The Youth Bureau continues to provide services well beyond those offered by other cities of our size and level of population. Of course, it seems that there is never enough to fill the needs of our youth. I'm pleased to recognize Danielle Satower as our new director of the Youth Bureau. Danielle, please stand. Danielle has assumed this position at a time the Youth Bureau had lost significant grants and programs as a direct result of the negligent mismanagement of that department. This result is exactly what happens when a city manager abdicates his executive role in hiring the best qualified candidate for the position in face of pressure from elected and unelected officials, citizens, and others intent on hiring someone else based upon criteria other than being the best qualified person for the job. Danielle, you're a breath of fresh air in a department that badly needed a breath of fresh air. I urge you to independently run the Youth Bureau in the professional manner that you deem fit, regardless of outside forces that are already pressuring you. I want you to know that the city manager and I will always have your back. I want to thank the men and women of our water department responsible for clean water coming out of every faucet in the city. They are out there in the snow and rain, whether it's 10 degrees or 90 degrees, fixing water main leaks and breaks without any interruptions in service or brief interruptions of service. They are the unsung heroes doing the job day in and day out and doing it in a professional manner with little or no complaints. I want to thank each and every one of them tonight. Our communications director, Mike Miner, does a great job bringing the city into the homes throughout our government channel, which I now understand is beating out the major networks in the ratings. Mike, I want to thank you for all you do for covering all events throughout this great city. Our Director of Human Resources, Joanna Duncan, continues to operate the Human Resource Department with no significant problems or issues. Just the way we like it, Joanna. Please keep up the good work. Lastly, this month marks the one-year anniversary of our installing Richard Lyons as our city manager. This appointment was a milestone for me and the city in many ways. He was the first city manager that I appointed with the advice and consent of a compliant council. I want to thank them for supporting this decision to make his appointment. He was the first city manager in almost 10 years that actually met and greatly exceeded the most important charter requirements of educational background and prior experience. Richard, you have restored a sense of professionalism to that office. You have steered clear of political conflict just by doing your job. In fact, you have calmed the political nonsense by listening to all sides, but in the end, making your own decision based on what is in the city's best interest. You drafted a budget based on the needs of our city and didn't sugarcoat the needs for money to pay for those services. You have the professional knowledge to read and interpret a city charter, the legal experience to understand the nuance of our hybrid charter. Most importantly, you have respected the role of the office of mayor in the city government. It has been a pleasure not only for me, but all of us elected officials to have free and open access to staff without the micromanagement and harassment of an insecure city manager. Significantly, you have adopted my passion to restore the fiscal integrity of the city, as well as my vision for growth of the city. And finally, since your appointment, I now have all instruments of city government operating on the same sheet of music, and as a result, we have achieved these great results. It has been a pleasure to have a true working partnership with you and operating the city on a day-to-day basis, which I believe is responsible in large part for the great success I will now discuss. Richard, on behalf of a grateful city, I thank you for your service. Now, the state of our city affairs. I'm pleased to report tonight that despite some very long years of turbulence, the state of our city finances are good and continue to get better. The biggest misconception that is often advanced to the public, sometimes even promoted by members of the Common Council, is that adopted budgets are by themselves responsible for any good financial results that may follow. And thus, if one opposed that budget, they somehow are not responsible for the positive financial results that follow. This is provably false, for if it were true, then so would the opposite be true. And that would be that the horrific string of 7 straight years of operating deficits that gave us a cumulative deficit of over $21 million would be strictly the fault of only those that voted for those budgets. And of course we know that no one would accept that responsibility. Therefore, in 2014 and 15, my administration was handed budgets that were, in my opinion and the opinion of other experts, destined to fail. They contained built-in expected operating deficits because of artificially high revenue expectations and the refusal to cut spending to fit into realistic revenue projections. Upon receiving these budgets internally, our staff got to work cutting wherever we could. We said no to spending we deemed non-essential regardless of the budget plan. We implemented a plan to keep labor costs and overtime within budget and doubled down on the collection procedures against delinquent taxpayers. We did that by directing the legal department to file in rem proceedings every year, not just every 2 or 3 years. As a result of those measures, some approved through the legislative authority of the Common Council, but most made through the executive authority of this administration, we've achieved great results. We continue to refuse to hire outside consultants. We refuse to commission studies. We resist any form of bonding to pay for regular operating expenses. In fact, bonding is hardly even discussed at council meetings anymore because of this administration's aversion to bonding. We have avoided the arrogance that breeds lawsuits against the city and in turn the need for outside counsels. These internal measures, as I promised at this podium 2 years ago, have brought about these results. I want to personally thank each and every member of my Common Council for this hard work thus far and ask them to continue the practice of policies of restraint that I have outlined. We had handouts tonight, a series of graphs. The first graph, and the large one is up on the top there, you can see that this has suffered through an unprecedented string of operating deficits that spanned 7 long years. That's the first time in our history that we had operating deficits for that period of time. These deficits depleted an $11 million fund balance left over in 2007 and cost 33 hardworking civil servants their careers. These deficits have left the city with an inability to replace neglected parks and other infrastructure. With the 2014 and 2015 budgets that were handed to us, we were internally able to cut overtime and avoid lawsuits. We have resisted studies, refused to hire outside consultants and special counsels for every legal matter. Through these internal measures, we were, for the first time in 7 long years, able to keep expenditures within budgeted amounts. Let me say that another way. In 2015, for the first time in 7 years, we not only did not have an operating deficit, but we were able to close our books in 2015 with a healthy $1.3 million fund balance. I want to thank our entire workforce, the city manager, our controller, for their work in achieving this goal. But I also want to thank the Common Council, as reaching this result would not have been possible without breaking the patterns of the past, particularly with respect to bonding, consultants and outside counsels, and those dreaded studies. The public knows this road was not easy. The road was not without disputes. It was loaded with finger-pointing, political jawing, and sometimes hard feelings. But unfortunately, that's our political process. In the end, this is not my victory. It is not a Republican or a Democratic victory. Neither side got everything they advocated for. Instead, this is a victory for Peekskill and the Peekskill taxpayers. We can, and I'm sure some will, argue about what caused the 7-year financial disaster and which course of action or which steps we took by which side of the political aisle helped the most to get us out of that disaster. But, ladies and gentlemen, that's a dispute for another day. Tonight, my administration declares the fiscal integrity of this city has been restored. Our finances are in better condition than they have been in 7 long, dark years. I congratulate each and every council person for their support of these efforts to reach this milestone. The second graph, the fund balance graph, shows the record of our unrestricted fund balance. This balance is like your family savings account and gives a glimpse of our overall financial health. Just like a family's bank account, these funds can be spent as wisely or as foolishly as any 4 members of the council seem fit. An unrestricted fund balance can be wasted on consultants or studies, or be spent on long-delayed improvements and repairs. Or it can be simply saved for a rainy day, which would greatly improve our bond rating. As this graph shows, the unallocated fund balance on the day I took office was $7,500. As you can see, we closed 2014 with an unrestricted balance of about $600,000. I stood here last year and declared that we had turned the financial direction of the city around, but quite frankly, I had my fingers crossed under the podium as I said that. But tonight, with these final audited numbers, we closed the books in 2015 with an unrestricted fund balance of approximately $2 million. Therefore, I'm extremely pleased to declare tonight, without fingers crossed, that the financial direction of this city has turned around. We are, for the first time in years, on solid financial footing. But I caution this council to be careful, as a city our size, to be financially healthy, should maintain an unrestricted fund balance of approximately 20 to 25% of its budget, which would be about $8 million. We still have a long way to go, but by looking at where we have come from in 2013, there can be no doubt that we are headed in the right direction for the first time. We should all be very proud of it. In case there's any other doubt, the third graph is also indisputable evidence. It shows the valuation of our tax base. In order to have healthy growth, any city must have a 2 to 4% increase in assessed values every year just to keep pace with inflation. Here you can see that our total assessed valuation had decreased every single year over the previous 6 years leading to this administration. Now, we can argue about the cause of this decline, but you cannot argue about the hard numbers that show from 2008 through 13, our overall assessed valuation decreased by over 7%. That translates to a 1.2% decrease every year. By anybody's standard, this is a sign of a financially distressed city in very bad financial health. By the steps we took, particularly opening the doors to smart and reasonable development, refusing to cave in and settle tax certiorari cases, we stopped a 6-year string of decreases and actually actually saw our total assessed valuation increase in 2014, and we held on to those gains and further increased our assessments in 2015 for the second straight years. I'm extremely proud of this turnaround, as we are no longer a city in decline, but rather a city on an upward string in growth. We are growing in value, growing in population, and growing in significant development. With construction about to start on several major development projects, we will further increase our tax base and protect our taxpayers. I'm very, extremely, and significantly proud of this accomplishment. I urge the Council to keep on this path of aggressive growth by approving projects as quickly as possible in order to get them built and on the tax rolls without undue delay. As you know, the city is so much more than just its finances, and Peekskill has been blessed with much to be proud of. We continue to grow in culture, as recognized by the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and numerous other regional magazines. We just concluded 2015 by celebrating our 75th anniversary as a city. I want to once again thank Jenny George Cummings and the entire 75th Anniversary Committee for the outstanding job they did last year in commemorating that. In 2014, we completed the long-delayed Peekskill Landing Park with the help of Seneca Hudson. Today, I'm pleased to report to you tonight that in 2015, pursuant to the agreement with Seneca Hudson, the city acquired full and complete ownership and control of that park. This week, Councilman Vessel, welcome to the party. This week, we will officially open the Southern Waterfront Park walkway, and we will complete that walkway to Lentz Cove within the next year. The long-delayed Lincoln Depot project moved forward in 2015 for the first time in 6 years. In 2015, final construction plans and bids were approved for the long-awaited Visitor Center. Hopefully, construction will soon begin, so that project will be finally completed. Construction of the Central Firehouse should begin sometime soon. I remind you that this administration inherited a plan that included a lot of things in addition to a firehouse. It included a museum, a 300-person meeting room, a regional training facility. It also bore a $20 million price tag that the city could ill afford, not to mention the removal of the entire Crossroads Shopping Plaza from the tax rolls forever. I'm proud this council came together to approve an actual firehouse that met the needs of the fire department while respecting the constraints of our taxpayers. The plan advanced by our administration cut the size by 1/3 and the cost by approximately 40%. While these public projects have changed the face and perception of Peekskill, it is the private sector that is the true barometer of any community's financial health. Based upon the number of new businesses that have opened here, our future looks brighter than ever. You know, when I ran for office, Restaurant Row on Division Street was touted as a great achievement, and it was, as it had a vibrant array of restaurants. However, I pointed out that that block, Division Street between Park and Main, had a vacancy rate of over 20%. In 2014, that vacancy rate went to 0, where it remains today. Our plan was to increase development along the neglected areas of Main and South Streets where vacancy rates were much higher. In 2015, that plan succeeded in pushing the downtown business growth outward onto these long neglected areas. Last year, as I stood here, we welcomed a number of new businesses that opened in 2014. One of them, the Hudson Room restaurant that I touted as a highly acclaimed dining establishment with cutting-edge nightlife. Well, last month, after just 2 years in operation, the Hudson Room was recognized by the influential national magazine, Open Table, as one of the top 100 restaurants in the United States. The Hudson Room was the only restaurant in the entire New York metropolitan area that was on the list that was not located in New York City. We want to congratulate Lou and Joni Lanza on their faith and confidence to invest in Peekskill and upon achieving this national recognition. Last year, I spoke about another expanding business, Securcher Windows on Central Avenue. For those of you who have not driven by there, I would urge you to do so. John Securcher has built the first new commercial building on Central Avenue in over 100 years. The city salutes the Securcher family on the beautiful building they have completed. Mr. Sekurcher promised us something magnificent, and he has delivered on that promise in a very historic section of our city. John, the entire city salutes you. Last year, I stood here and welcomed back to town the Ginsburg Development Corporation with their project, The Abbey. I'm pleased to report tonight that this project will be a reality in a few short months. GDC has diligently pursued this project and is eager to bring a world-class hotel and spa to Peekskill. I am informed that the final approval should be in hand in a matter of weeks, and I want to thank Martin Ginsburg for hanging in there during the dark years and thank him again for his vision on creating something that is sure to be nationally acclaimed. Last year, I spoke about the Alma project on Broad Street between Park and Brown Streets. Some of these projects are right here in the front. I'm pleased to report to you tonight that this project will receive its final planning board approval, I'm told, tomorrow night. Right, Gene? Where's Gene? Mr. Valiotis has assured me that ground will be broken this summer. I want to welcome Steve Valiotis and his family to Peekskill. On behalf of the city, I want to thank them for making a significant investment here in what will be the largest construction project in Peekskill's history. This project will change the face of the long-neglected Crossroads Shopping Center and that entire area of the city ravaged by the wrecking ball of urban renewal over 50 years ago. Last year, when I took office, the first major legislative change I aggressively pursued was the lifting of the artist-only residency restriction in downtown. I said that by lifting that restriction, building owners would be willing to renovate second and third stories of buildings, and most importantly, new construction would be stimulated. The Kearney Project on Main Street was the first evidence of the truth of that assertion. Last year, I spoke about this great project as a concept. This year, I'm pleased to report to you tonight that every single final approval has been granted to this project, financing is in place, and I've been assured by Ken Kearney, who's here tonight, that ground will be broken in June, and that the frame of that building should be risen by the close of this year. I want to thank Ken Kearney and his family for having the faith and confidence in Peekskill to invest here and for bringing us a beautiful project that will fill an empty eyesore on 2 blocks. When I stood here 2 years ago, I told you we could attract small to medium-sized businesses that employ 15 to 30 employees, and we have. Here tonight are representatives of the Diamond Brothers Properties who are currently renovating the former Cove site at Charles Point. They are creating a major destination attraction for restaurant patrons and families seeking recreational activities. This project will bring well over 30 full-time jobs to Peekskill. We welcome the Diamond Brothers to Peekskill and thank them for their confidence to invest here. Also here tonight, the Puff family opened up the Westchester Tool Rental Place on Welcher Avenue and Washington Street. Also here tonight, James McHale, the owner of J.P. McHale's, a long-established company formerly based in Buchanan. Currently based in Buchanan, but only for a short period of time. Mr. McHale's plan to construct a world-class facility and base his operations right here in Peekskill will bring approximately 40 good-paying jobs to Peekskill. We welcome Jim and his family here tonight and thank them for investing in Peekskill and bringing those jobs. My friends, as I stood here 2 years ago, I promised you we would change the financial direction of this city, and we have. I stood here 2 years ago. I was excited and hopeful that I could revive long-stalled or rejected projects, as well as attract new and exciting and significant development to Peekskill, and we have. With us tonight are the owners of the Chateau Reeve, who are just dying to expand their property, and they're waiting for the Ginsburg project to be completed or approved, and they're going to pick up and complete their project. There are so many things going on that Jean Friedman is looking for employees. Anyone looking for a job in the planning department should reach out to her. Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence is in. Approvals have begun to be granted, and as I said, like dominoes, you will see these projects rise off the drawing boards and forever change the skyline of Peekskill. I stood here last year and told you it was dawn in Peekskill, the dawn of a new day. Well, that new day has arrived and brought forth good news and results that were fully expected. Here I go. Recently, when news of our surplus was reported in the online newspaper, the Peekskill Post, the headline said, "Finances were better than expected." I cringed before I called that reporter. I held back my famous temper and told him he was dead wrong. That news was exactly what we expected. We expected good financial news because we have worked very hard to achieve these goals. We expect good financial news because the employees of this city work hard every day, shorthanded, doing more with less. We expect good financial news because in a city that had one single commercial building, a Walgreens drugstore in 6 long years, now has almost a $500 million worth of new construction pending before our various boards. And for the fact checkers out there, let me be perfectly accurate. It's not a $500 million. It's $484 million of new private investment dollars coming into our city, and I'm very proud of that. We expect good financial news when we grow our tax base and reverse 7 straight years of a declining tax base. We expect good financial news when lawsuits aren't filed. We expect good financial news when outside law firms are fired. We expect good financial news when we can actually do something without first having to study it, like hiring a city manager without the advice of yet another dreaded consultant. Our success is not unexpected. It was not luck, and it was not a miracle. It was simply a well-thought-out plan that was effectively implemented, and a plan that will not tolerate failure. Ultimately, our plan fully expects success, regardless of the weather. It has not been an easy road to wean a council previously addicted to such wasteful expenditures and reverse the course, but they have done it, and they deserve our thanks. Since taking office, the city has not hired a single consultant. We commissioned a single study of a peer because we almost had to, and hired only a single attorney whose expertise was necessary due to a complicated tax litigation. Although I voted against both of these expenditures, I am proud that they will cost the city little when compared to the well over $4 million wasted on such expenditures in the 6 years before I came into town. As I stand here tonight, I feel I would be remiss if I did not mention 2 recent issues that were widely reported in the press, which portrayed my wonderful city in the negative shadows of shame and lawlessness. Our city has a proud history of applying for grants or assisting qualified 501c3 organizations, acting as a pass-through to those organizations, and ultimately to qualified individuals and families. One such organization apparently made awards or grants to loans to unqualified individuals who themselves claimed they were not aware that they were ineligible to receive those loans. Upon this disclosure, the organization acknowledged its error in making the loan and failing to maintain adequate records. They reported that they were working on a corrective action plan to be approved by the New York State Affordable Housing Corporation to avoid repeats of this mistake. The city, through my office, offered to assist them in drafting that corrective action plan, but sadly, our offer was rejected. Accordingly, I am proposing tonight that this city adopt as its official policy 4 simple rules to be followed by any 501c3 organization that seeks to do business with the city. They are simple. 1, that no elected official or members of their family be eligible for any grants or loans through the 501c3, regardless of whether the funds were derived from the city directly or indirectly, and that there be no allowable exceptions to this rule. Number 2, that no city employee or their family be eligible for any grant or loan without a specific waiver being granted by the Common Council. Number 3, that no employee of the 501c3 or a member of their family is eligible for any such grant without a specific waiver being granted by the Common Council. And that would include members of their board of directors and their families as well. Lastly, in every transaction, a duly licensed and practicing attorney put his license on the line by personally certifying to the city that these rules have not been violated. These 4 simple standards will be the internal ethical requirements of the city of Peekskill for all 501c3s to comply with if they wish to obtain any federal or state grants through the city of Peekskill. This policy will constitute our ethical standard regardless of whatever corrective action plan any organization submits to any state or federal agency. Also, as widely reported 2 weeks ago, a New York State Supreme Court judge held that the city, through certain council persons, acted contrary to the charter in attempting to pass a 2016 budget. Look, we are a nation, a state, a city of laws. We're a society of laws and procedure. We are governed by those procedures, whether we like them or not. Each and every elected or appointed official, as well as every single employee of the city, takes an oath, a solemn oath, a swear to God, to uphold and obey the city charter. Regardless of intent, instead of adopting an attitude of doing whatever we feel like doing and taunting citizens to sue us if they don't like it, I would urge this council to adopt an attitude of change. Change the city charter if you think a particular provision is unfair, outdated, or somehow harmful to the city of Peekskill. But at the end of the day, we have to obey the city charter. Debate of issues is healthy, but in the end, the charter is our constitution. No one is above the law, and no citizen should ever be put in the position of having to sue their elected officials into doing the right thing or to force them to abide by their oath of office. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I stood here 2 years ago and asked you to join with me to hold your heads high as the darkness of our financial nightmare would lift, and it has. 2 years ago, I said that our growth, not increases in taxes, would be the clear pathway out of that financial quagmire and the clear path to restoring our finances, our bond rating, and rebuilding this great city. As I stand here tonight, the map that was drawn 2 years ago has proceeded virtually unabated. This is a transitional year, one where those dreams are becoming reality. I can promise you here tonight that when I stand here next year, those plans will be taking life during a robust construction phase. The promise I made to you 2 years ago that you will not recognize the city is being realized. Change was promised, and change has come. And I promise you, much more is to come. The complete turnaround of the city is all part of a plan, a well-thought-out plan that encourages private investment in a great city and that insists on excellence from every single one of its departments. It is a plan that has created a city that is fiscally sound, one where people want to come and live, and where investors want to come and invest. And that plan has succeeded. I want to thank you all for coming here tonight. May God bless you all, and may God bless the great city of Peekskill.